This is going to be the difference of Howie Roseman when it comes to the draft. From the last few years till now, the Eagles have really went into best player available, best talent available when it comes to the first round. And before that, they were always making the analytical pick, which is the big mistake or position of need, okay, which you can kind of be 50-50 on when it comes to talent that's coming around in this draft. I want to talk about a pre-draft visit that doesn't sit too well with me for a lot of reasons, and hopefully this philosophy does change and they stick with what they have been doing on top of a crazy impactful offseason. Free agency wise, been fantastic. We're going to the salary cap going to next year in 25. How much cap can the Eagles actually get into by next season? And a former Philadelphia Eagle has signed with a rival, and let's get into it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So I want to go over some news on the Philadelphia Eagles. A few things I definitely want to go over here. Okay, now we're looking at the first round of the draft. What is the one position? And are we done offensively? Are we done defensively? Are we done in free agency as of yet? I don't think so. We still have the HaasonReddick stuff that's going on right now. A re-sign that we're kind of waiting for, and we've heard a lot of rumbles about a safety coming to Philadelphia. Whether you're going to get a Blackman or you're going to get a Justin Simmons, are these moves still going to happen? Is it mostly an after the draft type of move that they're going to make? We'll see. But you have to look at the pre-draft visits in a couple ways. And I've already kind of explained it on the intro a little bit because you have to go best player available. I don't want the Eagles to go so analytical with especially an early pick like that, because this is the future for this team. This is, you can go 50-50 on you need a position of, a player, a position of need from a specific player that you want. But, you really can't in this type of league. Like, you have to get the best talent that you can. And I think there's going to be a lot of players coming down, okay, for 22, where we sit at. I think there's going to be a trade-ups involved. I think there'll be trade-backs involved. I think Howie's going to be very busy when it comes to the draft, and he might make a deal before the draft to get something done, okay, whether it's acquiring players or, trading multiple picks. You never know what could happen with Howie Roseman. Now, when it comes to pre-draft visits, I don't want the combine to be the main reason why you draft these guys. Okay, the pre-draft visit is the combine is a pony show at the end of the day. Okay, like all the combine does is to see specific skills from some of the certain players that teams have interest in, and their draft stock will rise up from good combines. But does that dismiss what they do on the field? Yeah, sure, because they're not in pads. They're not facing anybody. They're not facing top talents. They're not, they're just doing workouts. They're just doing different activities. And, when I seen that Chop Robinson on a pre-draft visit with the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of was an eye-opener for me, because I'm not going to say I wasn't going to expect it too much with Chop Robinson. This is a guy that only had 4 sacks last year, okay? 4 sacks, 12 solo tackles. All right. Not really big statistically, and that's where it kind of gets me worried. And he had a really good combine. Now, I don't want the combine to overtake what the guy has done in college, because I'm not saying that he won't be a good talent or anything like that, but will he be the best talent? Will he be the best talent over a wide receiver? Will he be the best talent over another edge rusher? Because at the end of the day, like, you have Jared Verse that's had from Florida State had 2 9-sack seasons, and has had 20-something tackles. You know what I mean? So he's done a little bit better. Laiatu Latu, from UCLA, 13 sacks, double-digit sacks last year. So you have a guy right here just with 4 sacks. Not a lot of tackles on the year last year, and it kind of gets me a little nervous with these type of guys. This could, a lot of people thinking Chop is going to fall down a little bit in this draft. I think Chop could be, I would say he's probably the 4th to the 5th best maybe edge rusher. I think if you're wanting to get a guy like this, and I don't think this means that Reddick is getting traded at all whatsoever. I think the Eagles are at a standstill with the Reddick situation, and the Eagles can't get get the draft compensation they want, which is a second-round pick. They're not giving him up for anything less than that, and Reddick is not going to get the money he wants. So I think Reddick just has no leverage at this point. The only time Reddick is really going to have the leverage he wants is if he comes back to the Eagles and he holds out. If he holds out for training camp and he doesn't play the whole year, that's really the only big loss for the Eagles, really. But if he was going to hold out for the whole year, I would just get the trade done, just get it done for more than a second rounder if that's the case. If he's not going to play, but I don't think it's going to get to that situation. Okay, so when you see edge rushers coming in for pre-draft visits, I think they can add more talent to this group. Okay, I think you might even go get a Dallas Turner that could be a nice hybrid from edge to outside linebacker or something like that, where sometimes you could put him on the line, sometimes he can hover over the line and be a menace and be very disruptive in the backfield. I think there's a few more really good edge rushers to maybe some hybrid guys out there that will do a better job than just drafting Chop Robinson just because. And I don't care about Penn State. I don't care about the connection. If that's one of the reasons why, knows the state, maybe knows the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know what team, he's ever, I don't know what team he likes or whatever is going on with him. But you look at, like I said, you look at the statistics, they're not really eye-popping. I had a lot of Eagle fans tell me, like, he hasn't really done, he didn't really do anything much last year. But because these guys have really good combines, sometimes you just, that's why I'm hoping that that's what they do. Analytically, they'll draft somebody because, wow, their testing was off the charts and they were ranked this on the testing out of this many defensive ends, out of this many edge rushers, or this many quarterbacks, or this many running backs in the combine, and they feel like it checks the boxes. And I don't want them to go down this road when it comes to the combine pony show to showing what they actually did last season. Okay, so I think there's at least 3 or 4 guys that are better than Chop Robinson. Not saying that Chop Robinson's not a great talent. Think he will be, but I think there are better guys in front of him. So that's kind of how I think about this whole situation. When it comes to Chop, a lot of the Eagle fans have been talking about him. He's officially already had a pre-draft visit with the Eagles, and I wouldn't be so thrilled. If you still had Jared Verse, you still had a couple guys up there, that were better. I think there's receivers that are just better than drafting Chop Robinson. I think they would help us out tremendously. I just think there's better talents as a whole from different positions that are best player available, different positions when it comes to Chop Robinson just being there at 22, whether the Eagles move back, whether they move up. And most of the time they either sit, or most of the time the last 4 to 5 years, they have moved up in the first round. So the Chop thing, it's definitely, it makes you think a little bit. But in the first round, I think there's just way too much. There's way too much in front of him when it comes to talent. Not just, like I said, not just his position at the edge rusher, but I'm saying all over when it comes to receiver, when it comes to offensive line. I think they would take an offensive lineman over him right now. Okay, but we're going to get into that in a second here. Now, and that's all I got to say about the Chop Robinson stuff. And because he's on a pre-draft visit, now it's a little bit eye-opening what they're kind of looking at. We're not done yet. There's a lot more pre-draft visits they need to fill up on that schedule. So we'll see what happens. Now, it looks like offensive tackle Troy Fontanu is going to be drafted in the first round this year. A few offensive linemen. We talked about the center from Oregon. We talked about, Fontanu is another name that's been popping up a lot when it comes to the offensive line. And, when you draft an offensive lineman in the first round, it sucks because, you don't want to redshirt a guy for a year. It's already enough that Juergens was kind of redshirted almost not 2 years, but he was supposed to be Kelsey's replacement. Really, before that, Dickerson was supposed to be Dickerson was supposed to be the replacement. And then I think the home opener in 21 when, Brandon Brooks went down. He went into right guard, didn't play well, and then switched to the left side, and look what happened. But you always got to trust Jeff Stoutland in what he could, in what he sees in these offensive linemen. I don't really, this is one of the remaining coaches of the Chip Kelly era and has been a powerhouse when it comes to offensive linemen and what he's done with Jordan Mailata from a rugby star to a national football player in America. I mean, it's amazing what you see from the coaching status of, Jeff Stoutland is our best coach right now. And I think the Eagles have so much faith in him and let him see these offensive linemen where they're at. And, I have no issue drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. Okay. I know it's going to happen whether it's going to happen, I think within the first 3 picks, they're going to draft somebody. You really don't have any depth right now. You got Matt Hennessy, and it looks like, Matt Hennessy and could be Tyler Steen kind of competing for that right guard spot from what it looks like. Matt Hennessy's got a lot of good starts under his belt, and he's pretty athletic, I got to say. So I thought that was a really good pickup for the Eagles. The Eagles lost Sue Opeta to I think to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a year. The Eagles lost Jack Driscoll to the Miami Dolphins, and I wasn't really I like Sue Opeta a lot, but this is what happens when Jeff Stoutland produces not only good starters but good backups. But in Jeff Stoutland's room, you gotta know more than one position. You gotta know multiple positions to play in his offense. That's why he almost cross trains everybody, and that's a great thing. The more you know, the more valuable you're going to be with the offensive line, and the longer you could, you'll have a job for a long time, whether it's in Philadelphia or somewhere else, and that's why Sue Opeta gets picked up. And I don't think Jack Driscoll was the best player from a left guard coming out of Auburn, for a left tackle coming out of Auburn that can play multiple positions, but not really playing all of them well. Wasn't great I thought at right tackle he was great when he first got here, and then went to right guard, not really good at right guard. Right tackle, I don't know. Haven't really been. He's been very inconsistent. Jack Driscoll's been very inconsistent. So I'm interested to see where they go. I haven't really went over too many offensive linemen in this draft, except for a couple, maybe a few guys. But so far, drafting an offensive tackle in the first round would be interesting. And to say, that this guy will have to sit out for a whole year. And that's what annoys me inside. But to have a guy that has depth right now, because really theoretically at the end of the day, Lane Johnson's backup needs to be drafted. I don't think we have a choice. I think they are going after a tackle in this draft, okay? It's got to happen just because, because Lane has been having these little injuries every single year, okay? He's had a couple ankles. He's had the other injury from the 22 year, so he's had a few injuries so far, hasn't been able to stay on the field. And, you got to have a guy that's going to back up the future. I mean, this is it. You're going to have that future guy that's going to be here for a long time. The one thing I don't want to do is if Lane Johnson's staying here for a couple of years and you draft a right tackle, then he's going to redshirt for 2 years. And then you're just then you have to really go off of 2 more years or at least a year to see are we going to have a plan to sign this guy? So it's going to be interesting how this process is going to go. I don't think they need to go first round for an offensive lineman, but it doesn't hurt. I wouldn't be upset about it because most teams just want to get skill positions. And yes, I know that offensive line is not the sexy pick of the draft. It's not. But at the end of the day, when your quarterback is protected and you have all these weapons around, you're going to thank Howie at the end of the day for what he's doing in the trenches. Trust me, because that's his bread and butter. His bread and butter is trenches, and then kind of, locks guys up and drafts outwards to other positions. So I think it's going to be great. So that is some good news. And, I can't wait to see who they draft this year. We're definitely drafting an offensive lineman from the first 3 picks. It's going to happen. Don't say it's not. It's going to happen. Someone will fall down. We'll see what happens. And then lastly, this is actually no. I mean, we have some news on a lot. Zaccheaus looks like he did sign with the Washington Commanders. Unfortunately, this is what happens. You know what I mean? I didn't know. I didn't see Zaccheaus even. I didn't even see Zaccheaus even signed at some point. As of right now, so it was nice to see that he went to the Commanders, but got a job at least. But looks like we'll be facing him this year. And then some other news that I want to kind of put up real quick that was kind of late. I want to kind of put this up. Now we're talking about the cap space going into next year. Yes, I know it's next year. I get it, but this is how crazy this is. This is how crazy this is. So they say after accounting for the Dickerson, Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Saquon, Sweat, BG, Jake Elliott, Devin White, Bond, Oren Burks, Pickett, Mann, Parker, Campbell, Lavada, Aquara, Tyrion Davis-Price, Tyler Hall, and Darian Kinnard's signing extension trades. The Eagles are expected to have $49.8 million in cap space in 25. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Now, obviously, this involves Devontae Smith's, this doesn't involve Devontae Smith's extension and stuff like that. But just think about it. They're going to have almost $50 million in cap space next year. That's how good Howie Roseman, because the more, look, this involves good drafting and this involves good contracts. And not too many bad contracts. And trust me, it's okay to have a bad contract or two every every few years. It's fine. It happens at times. Just think of it. AJ Brown, okay? AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley are literally equal to the amount of $34 million against the cap this year. For all those players, your main weapons on offense, that's your cap hit on all those players offensively. It's absolutely insane. I think Howie Roseman is ranked, 22nd, 23rd in the league when it comes to lowest cap numbers? I mean, that's really good. It's really, really good. While you're still trying to go after your Super Bowl, while you're signing guys at a fraction of the cost, getting low risk, high reward type guys. And yes, and Howie Roseman has gotten some good players in here, but you got to remember, like, if you're not drafting well, you're not going to be able to make moves like this. You're not going to be able to have cap space like this either. The more you draft well, the more cap you can have, the more guys you could produce and fit really well, the less free agent signings that you have to sign, every single year. And there's nothing wrong with signing free agents or because the Eagles have made pretty much 16 moves in free agency when it comes to obviously restructuring, and it comes to re-signing and getting free agents. It's about 16 moves altogether. And, Howie Roseman just likes to maneuver himself around. And it's a really good sign. Very happy about it. Almost $50 million in cap space next year. And, they have what? They're at 32, 33 million, 30 to $33 million right now. HaasonReddick getting extended, traded, whatever happens, restructured. You save $11+ million with that move. And as for cap space, as for financially balanced, I think they're in a really good spot. I think they're at a really good health when it comes to their cap. Because I remember the days where we were not drafting well and we were just restructuring every single year because the Eagles had to get cap space. Then you have to trade players. You have to create cap some way. I remember the Eagles used to be $70 million, over $73 million over the cap. And then you have to get that number under the cap, and you have to get your $78 million in the hole and have to get yourselves out of it. We've been through that situation before. We've seen Howie Roseman with less money making more moves, but what would it be like if Howie Roseman actually had more money on top of good draft compensation? And you started out with 46 and a half, $44 to $46.5 million. I forgot what the actual, I thought it was $46.5 million to start out free agency. That's great. It's not 90 million, but 40, you could do a lot with that money. You could do a lot. And I thought the Eagles spent it very well, and I think they're not done yet. And obviously a big chunk is coming back from the Reddick stuff. So Howie Roseman's done a fantastic job so far. The draft is the next step. Obviously a couple free agents that are still out there. Eagles are still eyeing some markets when maybe it comes to safety, and we'll see what happens. But very happy about it, and I think Howie's doing a great job. And obviously the Chop Robinson thing is very important because, you gotta be real with yourselves here when it comes to certain guys. I don't want the combine to be the main reason why you're drafting guys, because they do well and they test great and it's analytically appropriate for the Eagles to get a guy like that because, oh my God, it's off the charts. You guys let me know in the comment section below you guys think about Chop Robinson getting drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles. Where do you rank Chop Robinson among all edge rushers? And where do you think the Eagles go in the first round? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day. Make sure you like the video. It does help the channel a lot. Love the support. Thank you all for joining with me every day on the live streams. We'll have another one tomorrow. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Shake some up, follow side. Peace out, guys. Peace.